Hello and welcome to Unit 6, Statistics and Samples. Let's begin the unit with Lesson 14.1, Scatter Plots and Association. In this particular lesson, we want to explore how we make a scatter plot. The objective that we have picked for this particular lesson is you will learn how to graph bivariate data on a scatter plot. You will learn what the term bivariate means, and you shall also understand by the end of this lesson what the term scatter plot means. Now, if you can recall from a previous lesson, we talked about bivariate data, and it involves two variables. If we look at the chart to the right, we see the two different variables is hours spent studying and test grade. Bivariate data are used to explore the relationship between two different variables. You can graph bivariate data on a scatter plot. And a scatter plot is a graph with points plotted to show the relationship between two sets of data. So let's take a look at this particular data that we are presented with. The final questions on a math test read, how many hours did you spend studying for this test? The teacher records the number of hours each student studied and the grade the student received on the test. So here the author is asking us to make a prediction about the relationship between the number of hours spent studying and the test grades. So of course, if you're using your TI Nspire CX, you can easily put this in list and spreadsheets and use hours spent studying as your Y variable and test grade as your X variable. And I assume I come to that conclusion because the amount of time you spend studying definitely relates to the type of grade that you will get. So we are looking at different ordered pairs, 0 and 75. That means this individual spent no time, made a 75 on the test. This individual spent a half an hour and made 80 on the test. We have an individual that spent 1 hour, made an 80. Another individual spent 1 hour and made an 85. An individual spent 1.5 hours and made an 85. Another individual 1.5 hours and a 95. An individual 2 hours and made a 90. And then an individual used 3 hours of study time and grade was 100, and 4 hours of study time, grade was a 90. So this is the information that we're going to put inside of our scatter plot. And again, if you're using the Nspire CX, then you're just going to enter these as hours spent studying and test grades and put them in as you see them. Okay. So it says to make a scatter plot and graph hours spent studying as the independent variable and test grade as the dependent variable. That's what we did here. Well, actually, let's go back and look at the way the graph is set up. So actually, we should have, if we want to do it according to what the author is saying, we want to make this our X and the actual test grade is our Y. So I think now we are, yes, okay. We're in correlation with what the author's saying. So here you want to go ahead and pause and create your points. That means remember that the first point was 0 and 75. So you want to go on your x-axis, you want to go to 0 and up to 75, and you put a point. And I think 0.5 and 80, I'll just do a couple for you. So here, if you look at your increments, this is 0.5, 1, 1.5, and 2, and so on. So the increments are going by 0.5. So you go over to 0.5 on the x-axis and go up to 80 right here. And put your next point. And go ahead and stop video and graph those. Then tell me what type of trend do you see in the data, and do you think that studying for the data 10 hours would have greatly increased the student's grade? And come back when you're done. Thank you. Okay, so as we begin looking at this particular data, what we saw that this is 0, 75. This is 0.5 and 80. Here are your two 1-hour grades, 80 and 85. Your 1.5-hour grades, 85 and 95. Your 2-hour grade, 90. Your 3-hour grade, 100. And your 4-hour grade, a 95 as well. Okay, so I hope you was able to graph those exactly the way we have them there. Now, it says to make a prediction about the relationship between the two. Well, a good sample prediction would be the more you study, or the more hours spent studying, your test grade would be higher. Now, of course, we've already made the actual scatter plot. And going back looking at the scatter plot, it says, well, what trend do you see? So let's flip back and see the trend. As you notice, the data is going as it goes from left to right on the x-axis. This data is in general going up in value. Okay, so in general, the test scores increase as the number of hours increase. And then it says, here's a little justification. Do you think that studying for 10 hours would greatly increase a student's grade? Well, just go back and look at your scatter plot. And you think, now you see 5 hours here, but look at the trend. Look at the trend. Would studying another 5 hours really give you a better grade on this upcoming test? Well, no, because the graph shows a general upward trend, but the grades cannot exceed what? 100. Okay, so what we were trying to do there was just give you some concept of how to make and read these particular scatter plots. This is Mr. Taylor, and I'll see you soon.